and welcome to Parents Using Human Design, the podcast for conscious parents who are unlearning the old ways and rewriting the rules with self-trust, intuition, and a whole lot of grace. My name is Courtney.
And I'm Bryn, and we're just a couple of parents using human design.
Yay. Okay. Today's episode, we are diving into self-care and what that looks like using human design. And we like to flow, Bryn and I. We just flow with whatever comes through. And there's a couple things that both came through to us this morning that we really would like to talk about. Bryn, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, I think one of the common themes that I see in my practice, and I know first of all, in my practice using human design, I'm generally focused on business. However, you can't really silo out business from life. Life is just lifing all the time anyway. And especially if you're a parent, it all kind of leads together and we're just doing this dance. And one of the things that I notice is I'm often telling clients, like, hey, we've got to bring the burnout down. We have to bring the exhaustion down in order to fully reconnect with who we are. And from through the lens of human design, often that comes with for generators to reconnect with that sacral sensation, or and this is across types, right? So for manifestors to really understand what their cycles actually look like, and for projectors, holy moly, I mean, there's so much conditioning in there. So to really truly be able to decondition, same for reflectors, it's like you really have to be mindful of how you're taking care of yourself, and everything sort of starts there. And I feel like this is such an area of your expertise, Courtney, that I just wanted you to speak to that, because when we talk about human design, it's easy to say, okay, well, for ourselves as a parent, we need to understand ourselves, and then we can understand our kids and give them an environment where they're really thriving in their own expression. But if we are not able to really truly connect with who we are at our core and what feels good for us, because burnout is high, exhaustion is high, stress is high, it's going to just sort of cloud everything. And so I think it's really important early on for us to have this conversation about how do we take care of ourselves, because the narrative is, oh, go get a massage or take a long bath. And when you're a parent, and especially depending on the age of your kids, like that's not always an option. So tell us
Yes.
what to do,
Only,
Courtney.
yeah, not I don't have all the answers. Not only is it not an option, but it also some people just don't get anything from bubble baths and massages and facials and pedicures, right? And I
I know.
remember like early on in my parenting journey of like, hearing this self-care talk, like you really need to take care of yourself. And I'm just like, ugh, what does that even mean? As a new mom, especially as a new mom with significant childhood trauma, who a lot of my clients deal with childhood trauma stuff that they're still bringing into their everyday lives, right? Um, Talk about clouding, talk about clouding your intuition and your inner knowing. And so I used to think like self-care, like what does that even mean? I don't even know what that means because I can barely like take care of my kid. Like I didn't know. Anyway, um, it can be really interesting to sit down with, and it all goes back to slowing down, Bryn, right? And that's something that came through to me this morning, is slowing down enough to know what is actually filling you up, right? I think that both of us are so far into our journey of knowing what really fuels us. It can be hard to like even relate to people who don't know what that feels like. And to speak to some of my about some of my clients' experiences is like not knowing what you want, right? Like not understanding what it is you even want. I used to be that way, right? Or not knowing what actually feels good for you, like not being able to say, I really want to eat this for dinner, right? Or to be able to say, I would really love to go sit down and read a book. Or I'm trying to think of like practical little things that people don't even think about, right? And coming from somebody who knows exactly what this is like, I met my husband when I was 16 years old. We've been together.
It's so amazing to me.
It's so crazy. And it's a lifetime of like learning about yourself and learning about your spouse, your person, growing up anyway, it's all intertwined and like messy, which life is for all of us, right? But because of that experience, going from, and trigger warning here, guys, like this might bring some stuff up. I'm gonna just say it because I don't want this like elephant in the room. I was a victim of childhood molestation, and it wasn't just a one-time thing, it was ongoing. And so bringing that into my world today, right? And meeting my now husband when I was 16, having that experience up until then, basically, and then co-creating a life together with this boy at the time turned into a man, right? And like not even knowing what I wanted, not even knowing that I could say what I wanted, not
Mm.
even understanding that it's okay to have a voice. It's okay to have your wants, desires, needs met, right? So talk about just like clouding what self-care looks like for you and your intuition and da 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 da. Da. So going back to understanding what it is that you really feel good about. Like, I think it starts with tapping into just those little moments throughout your day of what feels good, right? Maybe you're sipping on a warm beverage, a coffee first thing in the morning, and it just like feels so good. It tastes delicious. Being in the present moment and recognizing this is my like fuel for the day, right? Just because it makes you feel so good. Or for me, and I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but being outside and seeing the way the light glimmers through the trees and the leaves, like that to me is like, yes, like I could just sit there and stare at that all day. Some people it's listening to the birds sing, right? Some people it's hearing their kids laugh. That's what really fuels them. They just love hearing that sound of laughter from their children. Bryn, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what are some of the things that really feel good for you in your day?
It's so fun, actually. Before I get to that, I'm noticing too, both of us came together this morning and we're both like, I mean, the first couple episodes, we actually like did our makeup and did our hair, and we're like, oh, this is gonna be on YouTube. We need to be presentable. And this morning, I think we both showed up. Maybe you a little bit more than me today, but like we got up and we were like, you know what, this is just what I need this morning. And I doing my makeup and doing my hair, it's just not. Doesn't feel like it's going to serve me. And you told me that got up and had some time floating in the pool, and that was something that came to you, and you could talk about that. Specifically for me, lately, it's been having my coffee in the morning before anybody gets up, because one of the things that I find is tremendously helpful is being for anyone is being in your own aura and having time every single day where you are very intentionally in your own aura. And so that is actually, if you think about it, your aura can expand. So just think wingspan, and actually can go out double that, depending on what kind of energy work you're doing. But if you just think your wingspan, but if you're, say, if my family's upstairs and I'm downstairs, like their auras could be bleeding into my, through the walls, or just going outside, and nature is of course healing for all. So just being in that aura, your own aura, can be so helpful, in particular when you have intention around allowing yourself to reset, to let go of energy that isn't yours, and to call back your energy. And that can be just like a few minutes, right? Stepping outside and being on your porch or your patio away from everyone. For me, it's first thing in the morning. It's like, okay, I just want to be in my space, have my coffee, and not have anybody get up. And I find it so irritating, which is funny because it's like, you get that interrupted. Like my kid will wake up early and I'm like, and it's just like the sweetest sound. And my son, especially because he's only 2, is just so snuggly. And it's like, those moments are beautiful and amazing too. It's just really important that we get that time in our own aura to reset. And it is being intentional, because in your undefined centers, really being intentional about thinking about allowing, and if you're not watching me, I'm kind of like, as though a breeze were coming through and clearing out a chakra and taking everything that's not yours with it, right? And then calling back your own. That's kind of the way that I'm envisioning it. And if you're non-sacral, and like me, I'm non-sacral, I'm a projector, I don't have that sacral center defined, and I have 2 generator babies who are attached to me all the time, it seems like. Really being intentional about moving their energy through my auric field, it's just been a game changer. And I don't think I realized, I would always say before, I just need alone time because I'm introverted, or whatever, fine. That's great. That's a great, get your alone time, but really adding in that second layer of, okay, now let me just kind of check in with each of my chakras, like where am I at? And just let me just make sure that I'm in my own energy, especially at the start of the day. I think I'm going off a little too long and hammering that
You
in,
are
but
not at
I
all.
cannot
I
tell
think
you how helpful that is.
Yeah, exactly. And I so many parents can relate to the idea of being alone first thing in the morning and that quiet, just that quiet time to be by yourself. And I can't even tell you how long. First of all, when my kids went to school is the first time I realized I actually needed alone time. Like I didn't even recognize it until then. And then wait, I can't even tell you how long.
But let's anchor that in really quick because your first one will go to school around age 5, right? But if you have a younger one, which you
Right,
did, you
right.
do, right? So how many years was that before both kids were in school and you had it truly had alone
Yeah,
time?
so they're 2.5 years apart. So from the time my first was born until my second went to school, what, that's 6.5 years, seven
Yeah.
and a half years. So a long time. And
Yeah, that's a long time.
I got a little glimpse of it when my first went to school because my little one would nap like crazy amount of time. He would take like 3 hour naps in the middle of the day, which was so life-giving. But really, it was when he went to school that I was like, oh my gosh, I really do need a lot of alone time. And I consider myself an introvert too, but I'm more of an extroverted introvert. Like I love being around people, right? I just don't get my energy from people. Um, where was I going with that?
Sorry, I interrupted the
No.
train of thought. But you were saying the first time you got alone time was when your kids went to school.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whew. And then you go down the rabbit hole of like healing and healing trauma and all that stuff. And I think sometimes as parents, when we are doing that inner work, we start to feel guilty that we're spending so much time on our own and needing to be away from others when it's what we need the most, right? Like it's okay if you're going through something and you're trying to heal some past traumas that you're taking more time than is considered normal, right? And what you spoke of like it can really just a couple minutes a day of anchoring into that self-care energy and that intention. We call them glimmers in my world, right? They're glimmers, and I love that word because it's just these little snippets of time throughout your day that just make you feel so good. Like I don't know how else to explain it. It's just that's what it is. um there was some other thought that I had. I feel like I'm very discombobulated this morning. There's so much that's happened. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about my morning really quick because I
Tell
think it's
me.
really
Yeah.
good to share for self-care. I woke up, well, last night I had this thought because I've been feeling anxious energy yesterday afternoon and evening, and I had the thought of I just need to float in the pool. Okay, guys, I am not a pool person. Like you ask my kids and they're like, "Mom, why don't you ever get in the pool with us?" And I just don't enjoy it very much, right? It's just not my thing. I'd rather be floating on the river than like floating in a pool. But nonetheless, I had this sudden urge to float in the pool last night. And so I decided this morning that I was going to go for my morning walk. We're here in Phoenix. It's hot outside. It'll be perfect. I can warm my body up and then jump in the pool. Well, on my walk, I was very intentional about not listening to anything, not listening to music, not listening to a podcast, not talking to friends, right? Not leaving voice messages, nothing other than just being. And that is a form of self care in and of itself. Going on a walk with nothing to cloud your mind, your judgment, your intuitive nudges. And I'm not going to go into detail about the things that happened, but some of the coolest experiences I think I've ever had come through. And I will talk about it eventually. Like I'm feeling that urge to definitely share. But that wouldn't have happened had I not set that intention to be fully present with self and divine energy, right? While I'm moving about the earth and creating this momentum of energetic flow between my feet and the earth's surface. Um, and then I came and floated in the pool, and I literally had 5 minutes in the pool because my walk took longer than I thought. And here I am with a head full of wet hair, no makeup on. I just threw a t-shirt on. So that's what Bryn's talking about of not putting pressure on yourself. Like putting makeup on this morning didn't serve me, and you throwing your hair up this morning served you so much more than like getting ready fully, right? And
Mhm.
the self-care paradigm, I think that is in our world of it. I think we tend to look at things very rigidly, right? We need to create a routine. We have to do this every day. We need to do the same things. And for me, as a manifesting generator, I'm definitely leaning into and learning that it doesn't need to look the same every day. It can look however it needs to look day to day. And the more you tap into these little glimmers that fuel you, these moments will get bigger in time. You'll be able to answer over time. I really want to eat that spaghetti for dinner, or I really want to sit down and read my book, or I really feel like I just need to go for a walk and not do anything, right? You're going to be able to, as time goes on, build this muscle and this capacity to hold what is truly yours and what you're feeling like really drawn to doing, which then just grows and grows and it turns into this magnificent, like intuitive knowing, which I think is so freaking beautiful. And I think that it could be really cool to for you, Bryn, to talk about like for me as a manifesting generator, things aren't going to look the same every day. And I think that's true for most people. Like we're human. We're not robots. And especially for women versus men, right? Because our cycle is a 28-day cycle versus men have a 24-hour cycle and they can get up and have this routine every day. Whereas women, week to week, it's different and our energy is different and feeling into that energy and honoring it, right? Honoring where you're at in that. Our cycle is there for a reason. And when we honor that, we become more connected to ourselves.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, first of all, I want to just pull out the two things that I'm hearing us say as sort of the anchor, because I what I'm thinking or what I'm hearing are people listening and they're like, okay, well, I feel like so overwhelmed. So where do you even start, especially if you're fully disconnected with what is it that actually fills my cup and helps me get back to me, and depending on whatever season, because I'm thinking about like when you have a newborn or an infant, right, and you don't get time to yourself. They do take a nap for sure. I didn't know as a projector I should go in the other room, sleep when the baby sleeps, you know what I mean, like, but in another room, because I didn't realize. But it's these moments that you find where maybe you lock the bathroom door and no one's in your auric field. But this is the two things being: one, be in your own auric field for a period of time with intention, even if it's 60 seconds, even if it's, I think we can all maybe carve out 2 to 3 minutes and just kind of check in with your body and just intentionally just let go of anything that's not mine and call back anything that is. That's like maybe even intermediate level. If you just get in your own auric field, that and nobody else is bumping into it. Beautiful. The second thing that I heard was movement, and in particular movement in nature, but again, whatever works for the individual, right? Moving your body. And this is really core to the practice of yoga, and you don't have to do yoga to understand this, but which is move the energy through the body so that it can quiet down and we can kind of come back into ourselves, into our essence. And it's not just the mind, right? Because we're not coming in to make decisions from the mind, but it's like when you move all that energy, there are chakras in the head center as well, right? So you have third eye and we have crown chakra. Move that energy through the body so that we can kind of come back to a place of peace. So however movement looks for you, and I have some, I had a client who was very into kickboxing, and that was the thing, and she needed that super high intensity workout to just bring, I mean, Manny Jen, right? Like she just needed to bring everything back down, get the energy out so that she could feel grounded and clear in her mind. And so I think nature enhances that when you can do that in nature, but also just nature in itself. So maybe what I'm actually hearing is three different things here. So spending time in nature, whether it's movement or not, having movement, and having time in your own aura. And sometimes we can combine all three, because if I get 25 minutes, I'm going for a walk. And I'm so sorry to my dogs, but lately I just haven't even been taking them because I don't want them in my auric field because I just need the time in nature by myself in movement to clear things out. So I just wanted to recap that. So if we have maybe three things that you can take away as your starting point, but then if you are at a place where you're like, I know that I just used to love reading books and I just want to get back into reading books, how can we build that into the routine? The next thing I wanted to say, because I think it's so important, is this concept of consistency. Now, again, I work in business, and in business using human design, a lot of people are like, well, how do I be consistent in my business? I need to show up online all the time. And the thing that I find that I'm saying every single day is consistency is unique.
Mm-hmm.
consistency looks like for you, Courtney, is completely different than what it looks like for me. There are some aspects in the chart that we can look at. I mean, certainly your type for sure might indicate a level of inconsistency. Being a mani-gen is just like, you're going to kind of go and explore all the different roads anyway. That's just how it is. And if you're not doing that, I would really encourage you, if you're a manifesting generator, to look at where are you not letting go of things, where are we holding on. We can look at, maybe the splenic center, is it defined or is it undefined, and how that might be influencing what you're holding on to and what you're when you're able to sort of change directions. But through the lens of human design, certainly talking about what does consistency mean to you. We also have the channel of rhythm, by the way, the 515 that connects the sacral to the G center. Not to get too technical here, but if you have the 5 defined in your chart somewhere, you might find that there are certain parts of your life where you are designed to be a little bit more consistent and rhythmic. So we call it the gate of fixed rhythm. If you have the gate 15 defined, you might find, especially if it's in a prominent placement, you might find you are way more inconsistent. This is called the gate of extremes. Like, you're going to just naturally work best late at night, or find yourself doing, you have these like big fluctuations in what your routine looks like. And so there is a definite need to remove this preconceived notion that consistency is universal. That it's like showing up every single day may not be correct for you in any way. I mean, there we could look at other, you might have alternating digestion or something where you need to like consistently be inconsistent with what you're eating or something like that. So I say that because a lot of times, again, I think it's bro marketing, quite frankly. This, oh, you need to have your morning routine, get up at 4 or 5 a.m., do a cold plunge, have a, protein shake, do your HIIT workout, like, and that's how you're successful. And it's like, well, but if that's not filling you up, then why would you do that? And
it's contributing to burnout.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Or even the opposite of saying, well, I have no morning routine. Maybe you're designed to have a routine, maybe you're not, doesn't matter. But beating yourself up constantly, like, oh, I should be getting up at 6. I should be getting up at 5. I should be doing a cold plunge. I should be whatever your thing is, right? Like, I should be, that is going to mentally bring you to burnout as well, because we're not giving ourselves permission to just be who we are, right? Like, if you are a quad right, and these, I'm talking about the arrows, and if you don't know, that's okay. But if there, again, like, you might find yourself, you just need to be more in flow, versus someone who might is, say, a quad left, who needs more structure to things. So yes, we can see this in the chart, but at the end of the day, you are your own authority, and you're going to know the things that light you up. And if it feels too structured, too rigid, and it doesn't feel good, but yet you're holding on to that, that's going to bring the cortisol up. That's going to make you stress out, right? If you are designed to be in the flow and it just feels good to be in the flow, but you're beating yourself up for not having a routine and a structure,
I love that you're bringing that part up, because the should be's, the should, like, we, in all of my coaching calls, it's like we drop the should anytime it's like I slap them on the wrist. No should, right? Because, when we beat ourselves up, that's not coming from a place of love and compassion. And that's where true healing happens, is love and compassion for oneself. So we work so much on, and obviously I'm really good at recognizing when people are beating themselves up, even when they're sneaky about it. And
wait, what are some sneaky ways? I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought, but I need to know, what are some sneaky ways?
You're putting me on the spot here.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I have a client right now who, she's celiac disease. So she is gluten. Obviously, she can't have gluten. And she's been, for a long time now, not being super compliant with that, and has felt like crap. And she has been so good for the last 8 weeks of eating no gluten, but that she still has that voice in her head, and she doesn't say it out loud. And I'm trying to think of even something that she can say that pings me to that, but I think it's more of an intuitive process for me, of just knowing that she's thinking that way and feeling that way. So I think that's what I mean when I say that, is it's more of an intuitive that I like hit that I get from them. So really working on not just the things we say out loud to ourselves that other people can recognize, but the internal thoughts that we say to ourselves. And I just had a conversation with her yesterday about how some people aren't even aware of the thoughts that they say to themselves in their head. They're not even aware of their inner dialogue. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's where you're at in your journey. I used to be that way too, right? I think we all have been in that place at some point or another. And slowing down enough to be able to hear that intuitive or that inner dialogue that we have for ourselves so that we can catch the shoulds, so that we can catch that we're beating ourselves up, so that we can switch that script from that to self-love and compassion. So for her right now, she is struggling with getting up in the mornings, going for a walk, even though that's what she really wants to do. She wants to create this morning routine and just go for a walk in the mornings before her kids get up and feel really good about herself. And she's having a really hard time doing that for whatever reason. We're digging into that. And instead of like beating herself up for it, saying, I love the part of me that is struggling to get out of bed in the morning, right? I love the part of me that is so hard on myself for not getting out of bed in the morning. Like just sending that love and compassion for oneself in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, that can be really hard to do on your own because our inner dialogue is so subconscious. It's hard to catch those things and it's hard to flip it in the moment. So, having support from somebody else in some way, shape, or form, whether that's a friend, a therapist, a coach, whatever that looks like for you, can be super helpful. Um, does that answer your question, Bryn? I feel like I went
Yeah, I think so. Well, it was
almost like,
bringing up, yeah, it was bringing up things even in my own personal experience, not to make this like a coaching session for me, but how the sneaky things, because I was like, what would that be? Like where might I have sneaky ways? But for me, as you were talking about her, like, it's like you're an intuitive hit. It was coming through as, oh, these are the moments where it's like my inner rebel is what I call her. And she comes in to sabotage in this rebellious kind of way of like, oh, well, it made me think like your client, oh, I've been so good for 8 weeks. Well, I deserve to eat a donut, or I deserve, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is my comfort, my self-care, where it isn't actually self-care, but we've tricked ourselves, right? We find comfort in it in some way, but it's actually not serving us. And so I think that is actually a really great true mental projector here, right? I'm like mentally processing like, oh, that's such a good point of where are these places where it's like self-sabotage that is masked as, right? It's like
yes.
hiding in plain sight as this, oh, it's comfort, it's self-care, right? But
Yes.
it's
Or you
actually
could go speak into like the exercise component too, of like forcing yourself to do exercise when it's not really serving you in that moment, right? I get in this conversation with my husband all the time because his exercise routine looks very different than mine. And that's okay. And he has a really hard time with it. But nonetheless, yes, like the self-sabotage component of that, of I need to exercise today and it has to look this certain way. When you're really physically beating yourself up, if you're
yeah.
feeling exhausted and you're like, for me, I tend to yawn a lot when I'm doing some exercise that's a little too intense, right? I yawn. It's like my body's trying to release all this cortisol that I'm building up in my system. And if you're feeling a certain way and you're exhausted, it's one thing to feel tired after exercise, like because you did a hard workout, but it's another thing to feel like you can't go on with your day, right?
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
people with chronic health problems, which I have all my stuff that I could talk about, but we forget that. We forget that like it's gonna look different for you, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Um, I don't know where I'm going with that
No,
either.
so it's another thing is coming up is sort of another point because we've talked about being in your own aura, being in movement, being in nature. Sleep now is this next. Like we're talking about being tired. And especially as parents, there's a lot of times that we find ourselves just literally exhausted from lack of sleep for whatever reason. Maybe your kid was up sick, or maybe you're a new parent and you're navigating those early months and days, whatever the reason, or maybe you are insomniac because of XYZ, right? There's a lot of things that could contribute to that. And we could certainly go into those maybe at another time when we have time to, because I'm like, oh, well, if we're having that nightcap, every night, or if you're on screens, whatever, there's a lot of things to do. But I think
Yes.
if we're keeping it really foundational, thinking about sleep and rest and really understanding when you need those. And what was coming through for me is one, when I show up to my workouts, I show up each day where I am. So I'm like, okay, do I, and I used to run, and I still love playing sand volleyball, and it's high intensity, and that's kind of a little bit of a separate thing, but I will show up and I'm like, okay, my intention is to run today. I'm going to clock 5 miles or 3 miles. I'll show up to my favorite trail, which is 3.2 miles, and I will run some of it or all of it or the first half. It just really, I'm checking in now because I'm at that point where I can check in now. Or if I do a strength training exercise, right? Or there's like my favorite online people that I follow, and I'll kind of feel into it. And maybe after 2 sets, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go through the third set. Or some days my daughter's with me and I've got that sacral energy, and she's got the little 2-pound weights. It's so cute. And I'll have my weights and then we'll push and we'll do the whole thing. Or maybe I'll drop weights. It just kind of, it's really meeting yourself where you are. But I'm always very aware of how much sleep have I had? And am I making myself work out because I feel like I have to? Or is it feeling really, really good? And the other piece of that, and then I'll pause, is, especially as a projector, usually projectors are conditioned to show up in the world as a generator of some sort. I grew up in a household of Manny Gens. So that was, definitely not overt conditioning, like you need to show up this way. It was just kind of how it was. Right. And I was picking up on all that energy, not necessarily getting time to myself. I had 3 siblings. So, anyway, so sleep, by the time I hit 30, I was running into adrenal fatigue, and I didn't know it. And I used to say, I can't nap. So a lot of times what you'll hear is, oh, for projectors, you should nap. Right. And people are like, I can't nap. And I know my mother-in-law says, I just can't nap. And it always makes me think about, I used to not be able to nap because it would be like 2 or 3 hours and my whole day would be done. Right. I would like miss out and I would feel groggy, but that was really a sign that I was exhausted and burnt out. Now that I have replenished my adrenals and I am living more aligned with my design and just my nature, I can take a 20-minute nap. Yes. And it's like, boom, done. And it feels so good. And it's so rejuvenating. Right. But I couldn't before. And so I just wanted to bring that to the surface because there might be some people that are like, oh, well, I know I need rest, but I can't nap, or I can't, I don't sleep well at night. It's like, well, there might be other things going on. I don't sleep well at night, honestly, because I share a bed with another human and their aura is affecting my aura. And so when he travels, I sleep so well. And I also have to know, as part of my business plan, as part of my life, I need to be able to sneak away and take a nap.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah.
Totally. But anyway, I just wanted to offer
this. I love that you brought that up because it actually brings it full circle for me of this idea of napping and needing longer naps because you were so exhausted. And now you can actually take these little power naps. And it goes to what we were speaking of earlier of alone time and being in your own aura, right? Like, and this, maybe you need a lot of alone time right now, or you've been in a place where you've needed a lot of alone time. And as you grow and as you tap into that more and get the restoration that you need, you don't need it as much, right? Something that's coming through for me right now too, it reminds me of myself as a huge emotional person, right? And I growing up would cry over everything, even into adulthood. Like I would cry and lose my shit and just be like a blubbering mess because of some emotion that came through, right? As I've given myself grace and love and compassion in that emotional part of me, now when I cry, it's like a beautiful release and then it's gone and it's not there anymore. I can cry for 2 minutes and be fine and not be this blubbering mess for the rest of the day and letting my emotions take over, right? It's building the capacity. So in any way that we're talking about it, whether it's sleep, building the capacity to hold what is actually like for you. And in emotions, building the capacity to hold the emotions. It's not about getting rid of emotions, right? It's not getting rid of the external situations that cause our emotions to rise up. It's about building the capacity to hold it all so that you can stay centered and grounded and from higher self rather than being dysregulated in our nervous system and letting all these things take over. Same thing with everything that we've been talking about today, being in nature, building capacity to like just be, right? Because it might be uncomfortable at first.
My kids are small, so we still watch a lot of animated stuff. There's a Bluey episode for all the parents out there like Bluey. And there's an episode where they go on holiday and they're at the beach and the mom, Chili, is like, hurry up the whole time. She's like, hurry up. I'm right. I want to go relax. I want to go relax. And they're all, you know, the kids are off doing other things. And she's like, come on, hurry up. Let's go to the beach. I want to relax. And then finally the dad says, hey, why don't you just go by yourself? And she goes down there and she has a book and it's like how to be happy or something like that. And she goes down there and she was like, okay, I'm going to start reading my book. Well, no, maybe I should just do this. Well, maybe I should do that. Right. And she comes back and he says, well, what's wrong? And she says, well, I don't think I know how to relax. Right. And it's because Bluey's so spot on. If you've never watched it, it's like so.
I've never watched it because my kids are older. That wasn't a thing when they were younger. Maybe I should just start watching it.
Bluey's so good. Parents, it's more for the parents. I think a lot of times we'll find ourselves watching Bluey.
No, I love that was coming up for you because earlier I had that thought of the first day that my kids were in school, it was quiet and I didn't know what to do, right? Like I was anxious. And I think a lot of parents can relate to that. I just don't even know how to relax.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Like, yes, you don't. And there's no shame in that. There's no reason to beat yourself up for that and try to figure out why. You don't need to know why. It's about moving forward and taking those little baby steps to get to that point to be able to just sit and be.
Yeah, no, I get that. And it's sometimes I'm like, okay, I just want to, you know, and I'll usually give myself a timer where I'll say, okay, this is my lunch break, for example, and I'm just going to sit and I'm going to relax. And then I can do the dishes. I can do the laundry. I can get back to work. I can do all these things. They're going to be there. They'll wait.
Yeah, always. The list is always there. It is never ending. Like, never going to be done. Let's just like really soak that in.
Okay, good. So time every day, just a few minutes in your own aura with intention, if possible. Movement every day, even if it's just a walk, you know, a short walk. I think whatever serves you. And some people are going to be more high intensity. Some people are going to be lower. And the reality is we're probably going to be a mix, you know, it's really kind of tapping into what is going to serve you in the moment or on that day. Time in nature, combining those three if you have to. I mean, my schedule, you know, I don't have a lot of time. So I do all three of those things at once. I go for a walk in nature by myself. And try to have the headphones out at least half of it. And sleep, you know, really minding the sleep and really playing catch up when you need to play catch up or being aware of what might be going on. I think we could have a whole other episode on wellness too, because I've really been finding a lot of success in supporting my sleep, but also just my general wellness with supplements lately. And I worked in the supplement industry for 10 years, by the way. So I know a lot about it and I just wasn't very regular with it, but hormones could go into that, diet and lifestyle. So we could have a whole other episode on just anchoring yourself in really simple ways as a parent. And then also how does that relate to serving you through the lens of human design as well. But I think we've got some really great tips just to get started. And then the other thing that I know we did an episode on authorities, but I think we could do an entire conversation just on the difference between undefined emotional solar plexus and defined emotional solar plexus. And then how do we navigate that when you have a mix in your house? Because there is a very high likelihood that you do have a mix in your house just by the nature of being human. So anyway,
I love that
today.
Yeah, this was so good. We would love to hear feedback. If you have any comments, questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're going to have all our contact info in the show notes. We're still figuring out all those details. Yes, someday. We're recording these and we haven't even published yet, but that's okay. We're rolling with it. That's life.
Awesome.
So that gives you permission to do the same in parenting. Roll with it. It's okay. Everything's going to work out. Okay. Thank you so much, you guys, and we'll see you next time.